Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George, round two. So thanks again for tuning in to my live session, which I have every day at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I had to redo this stream because I had some technical difficulties, and I may have some more again because I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to react to this video from Morgan Stanley. In fact, it's from the chief global strategist. And he conducted an interview with CNBC talking about the declining USD and Fiat. So I'm going to react to that because he makes some compelling points in terms of why declining USD and Fiat helps Bitcoin, why Bitcoin has been rising for this year. So today I'm going to go through that and hopefully help kind of explain some of the things that he's talking about, because of course some of you guys are new, you haven't heard of these arguments before, but that is what I'm going to present to you guys today. So hopefully it works out, because whenever I try to do this live, especially in a non pre-recorded video, it's kind of hard to do sometimes. So I'm going to give it a try. For those of you guys that are here already, thank you. Make sure you smash up the likes, smash it up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you don't miss out on any of my live streams or my segments, which have been doing very well, so you don't want to miss out on any of those. Okay, so let's get started. Let's give this a try. This clip is about 4 minutes. Obviously, I'm going to react to it. I'm going to stop in the middle and basically kind of go over what this guy said. So let me change my screen here so you guys should be able to see this. And I'm going to enable some audio, some desktop audio. I got to put on my headset so I can listen in. Here we go. All right. And then let's do this. Let's do this.
For more, let's bring in Ruchir Sharma, the Chief Global Strategist of Morgan Stanley Investment Management. He's also the author of the 10 Rules of Successful Nations. Ruchir, you write that on average, nations that have enjoyed the term reserve currency have done so for about 94 years. The dollar is going on 100 years as of 2020. But why do you think that Bitcoin could pose a challenge to the dollar where the euro or the yuan could not?
First of all, I'm just going to stop right there, because what the host said was pretty interesting, that normally a fiat, a dominant currency, exists for about 94 years. And the USD has been dominant for over 100 years, right? So it's slightly over that average. So I think that's pretty interesting. Is that a sign of what's to come?
Exactly, because all these central banks are following essentially the same policies, that they're printing a lot. And so therefore, for the last few years, I've been relatively optimistic on the US dollar as people have tried to pump up the euro or the Chinese currency, knowing that those currencies don't really pose a threat to the US dollar's reserve currency status. But what's happened over the past year has been exceptional. The amount of dollars that have been printed and currencies around the world that have been printed to keep economies afloat has been unprecedented, way larger than anything we saw in the 2008-2009 financial crisis. And I think that this, at the margin, is leading to an erosion in trust in paper currencies.
Okay, so let's stop right there. For those of you guys that lived through the 2008-2009 housing bubble, the toxic mortgage securities, right? I lived through that, and I lived through a couple bubbles before that. But I remember specifically when the banks were claiming they were all about to go bankrupt, the world financial system was about to collapse, and we were going to go back to Stone Ages, right? Remember, all the big banks were bailed out, and the bailout caused such a commotion, but it was around $790 billion, okay, which, yes, it's a large amount, $790 billion, but at that time, it was the biggest bailout in history of the United States, right? And look at what happened now, right? Within 2020, we had one bailout, the very first stimulus package, the relief package, and that was in the trillions. We're talking about $4 trillion, right? That is what Ruchir is talking about. That first one was already $4 trillion. more than 5x larger than the one in 2008, which at the time was the biggest bailout in history, right? But we're just kind of, most people just kind of accepting that, hey, we need to bail out. But think about how much money now is floating around, right? And now we have the second stimulus package, the relief bill that was just passed, right? The additional 900 billion. So that's another basically trillion that is being printed out of thin air. That's why I call it IOUs, right? So what he's saying, I completely agree with. You know, a lot of people are starting to question these IOUs, right? What are the consequences? Usually with IOUs, you have to pay it back, right? How is the U.S. government going to pay back the $5 trillion that was printed out of thin air, right? So I just want to point that out because some of you guys may not know that, but it makes a lot of sense. Let's continue.
Now, I don't think that Bitcoin is the end game, but I think that we are moving in that direction where people are looking for alternatives. And the Bitcoin surge this year is just one sign of that we may think that there are no alternatives because we think in linear way. The euro, the yuan, those will be the alternatives. Just like in the past, the reserve currencies were always replaced by one currency after another. Before the US dollar, it was the British pound. Before that, it was the French currency, then the Dutch currency, and the Portuguese, and the Spanish, and so on and so forth. But this time, something different is afoot.
Right.
And I think that the Bitcoin surge is a sign of that.
So something's afoot, and Bitcoin surge is a sign of that. Now, he does say that he doesn't know if it's going to be Bitcoin for sure that will be replacing USD and Fiat, right? Because of all the distrust. But something's afoot. That is why Bitcoin is going up. That's true. And what interesting point that he made is people tend to think linearly. So they don't want to think that there's going to be multiple reserve currencies. They want to think one. And I didn't know, a history lesson, I didn't know before the USD was the British pound, and before that was the French currency, and before that it was whatever, right? So each one lasted about 94, 96 years. But that's kind of interesting that we always look for that one to replace the current one, right? So will that be Bitcoin or will that be something else? But his point is you could definitely see something's afoot now, right? The fact that Bitcoin is rising so much within a short amount of time, right, means something.
Ruchir, but in these countries where money is being printed, there is someone doing the printing. There is a central bank that is in control of these price levels and the amount of supply in the system. I mean, Bitcoin.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. She's trying to make this into a bad thing about Bitcoin, about how there's a central bank that controls it, that prints it, right? And how if you don't have that, you can't trust it. That's exactly why people are getting away from USD and Fiat, right? It's because of distrust in central banks and their monetary policies and their endless printing. That is the reason why people are looking for an alternative, something that is non-sovereign, that isn't controlled by any government or entity or any central bank, right? There's no set inflation. It's in fact there's a de-inflationary. It's de-inflationary. That's what I meant to say. So I just want to point that out, that she's trying to make that sound like it's a bad thing, that people won't trust it because of those reasons. But that's exactly why people are turning to Bitcoin, because of those reasons.
For all of its overcome in the last several years, I mean, it still has no global cop on the beat. It still is mined from a computer. It still could bankrupt someone's account from a simple technological hack. So how do you think that this is a long-term sustainable alternative for someone who loses trust in, say, a government-backed currency to put everything in Bitcoin as an alternative?
Yeah. I think that the bigger story here is blockchain technology. So that is what's really led to the rise of Bitcoin. And it's amazing. You talk about these trust levels. What I find so fascinating is the demographic divide out here. That you speak to the millennials and the younger population, and they have a lot of trust in Bitcoin and the way it is controlled, its supply is controlled. But a lot of the old...
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense too. Griffin, I saw... you just came aboard. Thank you. I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because just think about it. I mean, just using common sense, right? Again, she mentions about there's no global watchdog and how there could be a technical hack. I don't know what she's referring to because Bitcoin's network has never been hacked before. But what he's saying is millennials, younger people, believe in Bitcoin. I think a lot of that is due to the rising price and how young people want to become millionaires overnight. But still, a lot of people are starting to question the old ways, right? Is the USD, is what the government doing sustainable? Is it correct, right? Do you really want to see your buying power decrease year over year over year due to inflation? And you know what? Is there a better alternative? Is there something better that can replace this? And also keep in mind, younger people are more tech savvy, right? They're looking to go digital. And of course, you look at gold. What's exciting about gold? You know, nothing. Has there been any advances in gold within the last 1,000 years? No. Gold is gold. That's it. Besides the invention of paper gold and all the derivatives and stuff that you can now buy, but still, gold is gold. There's not going to be any advancements, right? That is why the younger crowd, the younger generation prefers Bitcoin, because it is digital gold. It has all the inherent properties of digital gold, right? But it's better. And it's better. And, you know, a lot of younger people is questioning the old ways. So it just makes a lot of sense.
Older folks are very skeptical of that. But my point is a bit different here, which is that the Bitcoin is just a sign that something is afoot and this blockchain technology could lead to an alternative out here. Now, the end game may be very different. We may move to some sort of a modern barter system where you don't even need a currency to trade, just because blockchain technology allows for things to be fractionalized and for exchange to take place. So Bitcoin is a product of that. But I think that this is all a sign that if you print so much, there will be an alternative. And that's, I think, what's coming through with this Bitcoin surge. And remember, this is still very early days. The total size of the cryptocurrency market is still only $500 billion. Gold, which is always seen as a traditional hedge, the size of that market is $12 trillion or so. So these are still very early days, but I think that this is a shot across the bow, that there are consequences of printing yourself in such a large way.
Okay, so that's it. His final thoughts are, yes, when you have endless printing, there are consequences. And one of the consequences is Bitcoin is now rising. So I think we all know that there's a lot of distrust in what's going on, right? And his ending argument is, look at Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is now also seen as a hedge. And it's very early. It's very young with only half a billion market cap, which for most of us, we love that, right? We love that. But he mentions about gold, right? He didn't talk about the 9 trillion market cap. So think about it. This exodus from gold into Bitcoin, that is also happening. We're seeing it firsthand, right? So that is definitely coming. So, you know, hopefully you guys enjoy this. I got my technical, sound issues worked out, but I plan on doing this more often because I think it's more fun to do this kind of reaction video with you guys in a live environment. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. That's really all I wanted to cover today. Now, some of you guys were asking about some of these other topics. So I did want to point out 2 things. I've been creating a lot more segment videos. So in case you guys didn't watch it, number 1 is, yes, Ripple self-announced they are going to get sued by the SEC. So that is why Ripple has tanked within the last 24 hours and 48 hours. And I do believe this is going to be ongoing for years, 2, 3, 4 years, because there has been other projects that have also been sued. But the difference is Ripple has been around for much, much longer. And Ripple has been consistently selling XRP each and every quarter, every year. And that's the difference between Ripple and all these other projects that conducted a one-time ICO, and that's it, right? So this is the difference between Ripple and some of these other projects. So anyways, in case you guys didn't watch that was released this morning. I think I think it's pretty interesting. And it'll be interesting to see what SEC does because of it. Bradley, I appreciate that. Also, Grayscale. Someone asked me about how Grayscale is trying to drive down demand. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. Great. There's so much demand for Bitcoin right now, and we could see it through every single report that Grayscale releases. So if you didn't watch this from yesterday night, you should definitely do so, right? Grayscale temporarily shut down new clients, new customers into their Bitcoin trust because I believe there's way too much demand. There's so much demand that they realize they can't even fulfill it, not even to buy it through the OTC market. I believe that is the reason why they have shut down new clients. They didn't shut down existing clients. Existing clients can buy as much as they want. So why did they shut down new clients? Most likely, it's because they have too much demand. These clients already are buying too much. And I show you why I think so in this video. So again, if you guys didn't watch that video, you should do so. All right, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. You know, I think a lot of you guys know, you guys hear about this. Maybe you don't know why Bitcoin has been going up so much within the last few months and basically throughout this whole year, 2020, right? And it's mainly because I don't have to actually wear this anymore. It's mainly because people are now seeing it differently, in a different light, not just as a speculative play, but as a store of value. And not just people, institutions, because they're seeing what Morgan Stanley, this global strategic analyst or head, is saying. Because when you print so much, there are going to be consequences. And people don't want to stick around to see what the consequences are. They don't want to see their dollar deflate to basically nothing, which is why they're looking at Bitcoin. So very different dynamic versus previous years, right? All right, I'll turn to you guys. Let's do some Q&A. Zach, no, I did not, and welcome back. And I'm kind of disappointed that you even admitted that you haven't been here for a while. Why not? Why haven't you been here? Been coming in here? But I am glad to see you back. But no, I'll never try that. Never. What do you think about interest accounts for crypto? That's kind of interesting. Actually, I just read that Square will be offering that now. If you utilize Square app to make purchases, you'll get rewarded in Bitcoin, right? So that's interesting that Square Cash App is doing that. And also, people have been asking me about, you know, certain credit cards, debit cards that reward in crypto or Bitcoin. Sure, why not? Why not? Now, if you're talking about staking, Bitcoin, I haven't tried it myself, but I know many people do, right? To collect interest, why not, right? If you go hold it, why not? The only thing is you have to worry about who you're staking with, make sure they are credible so that if there's a hack that happens or whatever, that you're still protected. Lakers go win it in 5. No matter who they play. Zilliqa, I'm just neutral on them. Not a big fan of Zilliqa. I think they're just they haven't built up the traction they needed, and once the founders left the project, I pretty much gave up on them. Bradley, actually, no. I think that will be the downfall of Monero. Privacy is great, except the governments hate it. So what they're going to do is they're going to force all the exchanges to delist privacy coins. And that started happening already. So they're going to make it very, very, very hard for privacy coins to exist. Mostly not because they don't care, they can't track your transactions. Not because they really care about that. What they care about is taxing you. And if they can't tax you, they're going to have a problem with that. So I get your point that, yeah, if entire global fiat currency system collapses and everyone's using crypto, that at that point, maybe privacy coin will dominate and it makes sense. But leading up to that, I think all the privacy coins are going to struggle and struggle hard. They're going to struggle really hard because they're going to get delisted one by one and no one will be able to buy them anymore. So that's already starting to happen. How long will it take until USD gets hyperinflated? That's a good question, Horst. I don't know. We're already seeing that in many things. You could argue that Bitcoin is now at 23,000 plus because of inflation. The USD actually deflated that much against USD, right? And you could see it with food now. Food is actually getting a lot more expensive. You can also see it with real estate. Have you noticed that real estate have been going up despite the fact that there's not that many people actually looking to buy a house? So inflation is already happening. It's just you don't see it with certain things. Like if you look at iPad, you're like, oh, iPad is like $300, $400. It's still the same. So you don't see it with tech, right? Because tech, there's ways to get around inflation. They can always find better manufacturing, new suppliers, and blah, blah. But there are certain things that when there's a set supply, you'll notice the inflation because they are a lot more expensive to buy, like houses, right? And Bitcoin and basketball cards, right? Or even Pokemon cards. So we're already seeing it. It's just not with everything. I have nothing against Cardano. I don't hate the project. I don't hate Charles, right? I know everything that's being done. I know exactly everything that's being done. But I'm trying to be objective, and I think anyone that's trying to talk about Cardano needs to be objective too. When it's done, it's not going to be the best blockchain ever created on Earth. There's many that already surpassed what Cardano could do. There's many that's equal to Cardano, and they are already out, and the competition is fierce. So just be objective about it. They're a really good project led by a really good leader. Although when I say leader, Charles is not the leader of Cardano. He is the founder of IOHK, who happens to be contracted to be working on Cardano. So he's not like Charlie Lee, let's say. He's not the leader of Cardano. There could be a day where he leaves Cardano because IOHK is no longer contracted. So just be objective. That's all I'm saying. Yes, there's no dollar cheeseburgers anymore. Even like a cheeseburger costs more than $1, Alan. I mean, food has been going up, and these fast food restaurants, you could tell that their serving size is also much smaller, right? A cheeseburger now, or a double cheeseburger now, it's like half the size of what it was about 5 years ago. Right? So even though, yes, there's still $1 menu or close to $1 menu, the size of it has decreased substantially. So that's another way to look at it. Yeah, most cheeseburgers are like $8. If you go to a restaurant, they're all $8 to $10. $8 is the minimum. Most cheeseburgers at a restaurant is $10 to $12, right? So you could see it with food. For sure, you could see inflation with food. Lincoln, do you only show up when someone talks about Litecoin? Well, I did make a video about Litecoin. Going back, fill my bags. This video actually did really good. Some people are like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" But yeah, you gotta look at. I'm putting my feelings aside, and you gotta look at what's transpiring now, right? As more and more people come into Bitcoin, a lot of them psychologically just can't fathom to spend $23,000 to buy one Bitcoin, and they don't want to own fractional Bitcoin. So they're going to look at cheaper alternatives. And Litecoin, being on all the exchanges out there, and being how it's only $100 something, there's something to that. I think people are going to flock into it, which is why I think Litecoin has performed very well over the past, month or so. That is why I said I bought a lot of Litecoin. It doesn't exceed my Bitcoin by any means, but I did put a lot in Litecoin recently. Litecoin Moses, why are you even here? I remember you. I remember you on Twitter trying to bash me for hating Litecoin. Why are you even here? Why don't you just get out? Okay. Act like you're actually someone that people care about. Probably a stupid question. If USD loses value, how are we going to profit from owning BTC? How do we cash out? The thing is, you got to realize this. Most of us still think about cashing out. If Bitcoin grows to where it is, there's no need to cash it out. That's the thing. People don't get that because it seems like it's kind of far-fetched. But more and more services and things that you can buy can be bought directly with Bitcoin. So just think about it this way. You don't have to think always about cashing out. What if one day everything is just done? All transactions is done with sats, right? With sats or Bitcoin. And you don't need to cash out to USD or something else. That's how you want to think about it, right? Think about how much it costs to buy a Coke in sats. Right? Think about it that way. And it's starting to happen. I haven't used Cash App recently, but someone is telling me if you buy Bitcoin on Cash App, they display how much sats you're getting and not so much Bitcoin. So you're buying like, say, 2,000 sats or 3,000 sats or whatever for X amount. So that's actually pretty interesting because if all the exchanges and services start doing that, then that's going to actually bring more people back into Bitcoin rather than buy something small like Litecoin, because now they're saying they could buy a ton of sats by doing so, right? So that's actually pretty interesting, but hopefully that helped answer that. Coke costs $2 for 20-ounce soda now. Yeah, unfortunately that's the thing. That's the thing. All right, guys, I won't let you guys go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed me reacting to this. I plan on doing a lot more of this as long as I could get my sound working, as long as I could get it working. But you know what? Bitcoin is in a really good spot. It's a really good spot. There's more and more use cases. There's more and more adoption. There's more and more institutions that is coming in. So, you know what? I can't imagine where Bitcoin will be in the next 6 to 12 months as more and more institutions and retail investors come in and FOMO in, and as more adoption comes, man, it's going to be explosive. It's going to be explosive. All right, guys, that is it. If you guys haven't checked out my other videos, all these videos, including the XRP lawsuit and Grayscale, make sure you do so. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And then hit that notification bell and follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And if you are new to Bitcoin, you want a crash course, check out my Teachable page and Patreon, where you can talk to me and others and get some exclusive content. All right, guys, take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.